You've been doing a bit of work for us. We're rounding off our depth chart, World Cup depth chart, and
just
we're going with the
8 months out, right? Okay.
yeah, right. Just the 8 months out. We may have to come back to this, obviously, before the end of the year. We're going to start, I think, with the wings. So maybe just first of all, we're going to be able to see it on screen here, but just take us through your order and who you've gone for and why.
What have we got? Oh, yes, okay. Well, listen, I think in terms of starters, you have Jacob Stockdale with the form that he's been in. I think he's on course. Certainly European Player of the Year. I think he is, with the form that he's shown recently, could be up there with World Player of the Year. He to see how he's come on from last season has just been incredible. You know, everybody questioned, was it a fluke last year, Six Nations? I think, 6 tries, top try scorer, joint top try scorer with Sean Cronin in Europe. He just seems to be, finding his feet and getting better and better. So he is one player who, for Ireland, I think, with that little bit of X factor. Obviously Keith Earls as well probably isn't as good a form as we've seen him last season, in particular the Players' Player of the Year. So I think that they're probably going to be the two, you would expect they'd be the two starters that have been in the last Six Nations. But I think, I believe in this Six Nations going forward. Joe will probably be thinking long term. I think maybe obviously England first match up, you want to get a win. The Six Nations is all about momentum. Get your first win and it continues from there. If you lose the first game, it's very difficult. You don't see many teams that win the competition losing their first game. So for him, I would imagine he'll go strong first off, but I think that people will be given an opportunity through this Six Nations.
Yeah, is it like it's Stockdale and Earls essentially that start here, and it's almost impossible on current form to make a case really for anything else?
I think Jordan Larmour certainly has an opportunity, but unfortunately with Leinster, they rotate the team so much, so he doesn't get a real he gets 1 or 2 games in, shows the magic feet, the sort of the talent that he has, but then misses out on a couple of games. So it's difficult for a player, I think, really to put their hand up. Look at Addison. He's just come in this season, but because he's played week on week on week, and I think that's quite grueling on the body, and you would hope that he doesn't get injured because of it, but because he's played so many matches, he's been able to just continue his form and really show the talent that he has.
We were talking about that with Brian O'Driscoll the other day. He was saying that Addison and Stockdale are the 2 fastest people in Ireland camp. Is this...
I've gone, I think, yeah.
Is there a weird situation with Stockdale? Certainly watching him on television, it just seems that he looks a lot slower than he actually really is, just because he's a big guy and he's actually, up close and personal, he is one of the fastest players in the world.
Yeah, no, he is. He's a flying machine. But exactly, it's the long stride length. It's quite deceptive, certainly when he gets going, but I think it's his power, how he just seems to, even when he catches a kick off, there's people on him, he just seems to stick his arm out. Very strong fend, and you're able to muscle his way from the first tackle. And then exactly, once he gets ahead of steam, you saw him, was it Italy in the Six Nations last year, where he had Keith Earls was the easy option on the inside, but he decided to take on the 15, went around the outside and scored comfortably in the corner. So he has got gas. And it's one thing having gas, it's another thing having the confidence to back yourself. And that is, I think, the difference in a good winger. A winger who will back himself to go, the easy passes on the inside, but he has that killer instinct. And that's what the likes of him, Jordan Larmour and Keith Earls are showing at the minute too.
It's mad how he's become the personification of the little shift in Joe Schmidt's thinking, isn't it? Because, say, 2015, everybody was like, we need to take more risks.
Yeah.
And still, Joe Schmidt is still a very risk-averse person, except for Jacob Stockdale. He does things that, if they didn't come off, sometimes you would say they're reckless, but they come off more often than not.
I think that the analysis that the guys do beforehand makes a big impact as well. I think that, knowing that Aaron Smith is going to close the line in that kick with the All Blacks, you think that is all just off the cuff. There's a huge amount of preparation goes into that. But with Jacob, the thing is he gets people talk to him, he's always in the right place at the right time. The big thing with that, to be a finisher, it's not about being in the right place at the right time. You're in the right place all the time. And then the pass, because 80% of the time the pass won't be given. So if you're always in that spot, if you're always in that space, like a defender will always go on a pass, where as an attacker, if you want to be ahead of the defender, you have to take the risk and be there that split second before and hope the pass goes. And with the likes of Johnny Sexton there, he throws that pass across the front to Jacob, who's on the touchline. You won't see the amount of times that Jacob's been standing on the touchline and hasn't got that pass. but that one time that he gets it, all of a sudden it's a try. So it's about being in that right position, and then other players around there so having lots of different options. That means Johnny and Conor Murray can pick the right one.
We're all obviously kind of, I think, still pinching ourselves with Stockdale in a lot of ways. Like, is he 12 and 14, something like that? 12 tries in 14 games or something crazy, whatever it is.
Incredible.
Like, is this going to, when I say pinching ourselves, is it going to plateau at some point? Like, is it, it seems like a guy who's come from nowhere almost, and the form, if he continues those, present company notwithstanding, is going to turn out to be one of the greatest Irish backs of all time.
Yeah, listen, he is on an incredible course the way he's going. He's still young. He's a part of a team that is the second best in the world. They're playing a possession-based game. So we, as a winger in that sort of game plan, he will get opportunities to score. But the opportunity being able to score intercepts, the one where he's chipped it over the top, he has a real array of talents. But listen, every goal scorer, every try scorer, you go through dips in form. There's a long way to go to the World Cup. It doesn't show like he's going to slow down at all. But yeah, he's really setting the records alight at the minute.
Do you remember the first time you saw him in training?
No, not really. I remember it was between him and a young guy, Jack Owens, who was a young guy from Campbell College. Right. And Jack Owens actually was the guy who everybody was speaking about ahead of him.
Right.
Jack Owens then, unfortunately, he took a kick in one of the A games. He was the man at that stage, and got charged down, hyperextended his knee, and was out pretty much for a year with that. And because of that opportunity, Jacob stepped in his place, and then obviously has taken his chance. And that's what it's about. You see with Leinster, all these young guys coming through. You see in Leinster, Munster, you have to take your chances. You don't get many opportunities now. And certainly Jacob has taken his chance.
Is he? Hugo Mania was saying during the week, I don't know if you saw that he's the best winger on the planet at the minute. Is that the case for you? I mean, there's some healthy competition there. Where does he stand in international context?
I think you just have to look at the statistics. He might not touch the ball, as much as other wingers that you see. But that's what I was saying, is about being in the right place. You don't always get the ball. If he constantly is hitting good lines, it's up to the players around him, good ball players, to be able to put the ball in his hands, because he is so dangerous. But I mean, Ioane was for the All Blacks, was up for World Player of the Year. Yeah, going forward, he is an incredible talent. I mean, I would think that Jacob is certainly as good as him, if not better, on current form.
Does Stockdale have work to do defensively, do you think, or what's your sense of that? I mean, you mentioned he's a young guy, and obviously still very young from a Caps point of view.
From a fielding the ball in the air, he's incredible. Attacking wise, incredible. Defence, he is very good. I don't see it as a huge weakness, but when people are always analysing and looking at people, they have to try and find some weakness.
What is his main weakness? What would you say, flip it that way almost? If he has something that a work on, I suppose, what's the thing that jumps out?
I think that the thing from last year, which was tough, was that Les Kiss would have been the head coach with Ulster at the time. And the type of defence that he tried to employ was different from what Andy Farrell was. So all of a sudden, he was 21 years old, going into Ireland camp, and Andy Farrell has a real press, wingers high, giving deception to the out halves, trying to show them one picture and then change last minute. So that obviously was something that was hard for him to pick up with at the start, and maybe got caught out. But now Jared Payne is in with Ulster, who's trying to employ a similar type of defensive pattern, and I think that's made it a little bit easier for Jacob. So defence is something that, of course, he'll work on, is tackling and not missing the odd tackle. But that's a small weakness.
Can I ask you just about two players before we leave this and move on to your fullback selections, who don't feature and who most likely won't feature, but if they were eligible and available and all that sort of stuff, would they be in this team? James Lowe being one of them, who doesn't qualify until 2020. Is he in there? If he's on your depth chart somewhere, presumably, if he's...
absolutely, yeah.
Is he starting?
Yeah, he's certainly not far away from starting. I mean, when you have the likes of Earlsey and Stockdale there, we're spoiled, really. But James Lowe, I mean, he's just... getting to see him up close this year, from being pitch side and watching matches, the level of involvement he has, his power, being able to score tries where he shouldn't be, but breaking tackles, always looking for the offload. But he just seems to have a real gel with the people about him. He's constantly going over, slapping them on the ass. He's constantly going over and putting an arm around the young guys, feeding confidence and just feeding a good vibe around the squad. I think that he has got a serious X factor. And if I know he's in talks, I think, with Leinster about renegotiating his contract and hopefully becoming Irish qualified. He'd be a serious boost to any squad.
Strikes me as like a great fella to have around the squad as well, right? Like he seems to be a big crack. Even there's a photograph of Leo Cullen. He's even managed to knock a smile out of Leo Cullen.
I know, who does that? We're trying that for months.
So if he is fit, what is it? Are we still with Stockdale? And hypothetical scenario granted, Stockdale and Earls, or what are you thinking?
I think that James Lowe, he's left winger. Yeah, I'd say he could force his way into that team. I think he has a certain X factor ability. The thing again, though, what we were saying about Joe Schmidt, he has to take more risks. You were saying having Joe's, with the amount of phases that Ireland go through, they have so many ball carriers. I mean, you look through the pack, pretty much every player in that pack can carry. You have Henshaw, you have Aki, you have Ringrose with an outside break. The one thing that James Lowe offers is incredible carrying ability as well to get gain line. When they're going through 20, 30, 40 phases of play, having somebody that can get you over the gain line like that will always make a difference. And the way he picks it up from the bottom of the ruck where he shouldn't even be there, goes through, drops the ball and then goes again. He has a bit of X factor, that guy, yeah.
Is he a bit wild for Joe?
He might be a bit wild for Joe. Well, he might be able to. I think as long as he's able to switch it on the pitch, he does his analysis. I think that Joe's camp is very similar to what Leinster's camp is. I think that they work hard off the pitch as well. They do their analysis. And listen, if you want to switch off whenever you've done your work and you can switch off, then good on you.
Good luck to you. Right, let's move on to your fullback selections, Tommy. We've a bit of a wild card in here. Talk us through them.
Have I?
Have I is always a good start.
Yes, I've got the 5 here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the way I was looking at it, on the last World Cup, Joe had 4 centres, but really 3. You had Cave, you had Jared Payne, and you had Robbie Henshaw, with Luke Fitzgerald was in there as a centre, but really he played on the wing. Yeah. Jared Payne got injured, and Keith Earls came from the back 3 into the centre. So he picked pretty much 6 back 3 players and only 3 centres. I mean, this time round, I don't know, when you have the likes of Henshaw, Ringrose, Aki and Farrell, whether I think that Rob Kearney, he's played 12 of the last 15 games for Ireland, but he's only played twice since that All Blacks game. I just would fear that, we need a fullback who has played quite a bit in that position, or who is an assured fullback, and not just somebody that if Rob Kearney gets injured, we'll move a winger into fullback or a centre into fullback. So from my depth chart, really the only person there, you have Haley, who's obviously playing week in, week out for Munster. Was very highly talked up when he came in from Sale. He's been very solid for Munster. Speaking to a lot of the players, he's been incredible in the training field. And he's a good player. Whether I can see him getting, forcing his way into contention, I'm not too sure. I think that we'll maybe see Addison play at 15 during the Six Nations. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him play against England at 15. I think that Rob Kearney again has only played 2 matches since the All Blacks. He's playing again tonight. And it could be, we all know Rob Kearney can turn up and can play, and can play incredibly
particularly
well.
in an Irish jersey.
Absolutely, and Joe Schmidt loves him. He's Joe Schmidt's number 1, and rightly so. But I do think that we need to try and find somebody in 15 that if Rob was to pick up an injury, that we'd be very confident.
Is it the one area of the pitch, like and just as you talk about it, that when we've done so much work post 2015, and that was the absolute state of aim, we need to create depth in positions. Is the one position that actually we're a little bit lacking in terms of experience and options?
Well, we're not lacking. I mean, you have Simon Zebo there, who is incredible X factor. I mean, he's 12 tries already this season. Himself and Finn Russell. I mean, he just looks like he is enjoying it. He looks like he's enjoying life off the pitch over there as well. So whether he would fit back into the Irish setup, listen, I can't see it. But I think that to have somebody as backup to Rob Kearney, who Ireland put so much trust in, one injury from him, all of a sudden you're looking at a Larmour or an Addison or a Conway potentially to go into that position, who haven't played a huge pile at 15, who, if you're going into a massive game in the World Cup, you want to have somebody who has a lot of experience in there. So Rob's played 12 of the last 15. Addison started the Argentina game, played very well for the first 10-15 minutes before Sweetenham had to go off. I think that somebody will be given an opportunity maybe to try and get a bit more game time at 15 over the next couple of weeks. Brian,
when he was in during the week, mentioned that Robbie Henshaw has a wish, or he fancies himself as a bit of a 15, obviously, and Joey Carberry's played there as well. I don't. Maybe you were sort of barred from putting those on your list, but in terms of Joe Schmidt's pecking order,
I did have 5. I think I really could have put 8 in.
I'm picking to make this list. But if it is a case that Kearney goes down with an injury or whatever it is, either in the Six Nations or beyond it, is there room for either of those to go to 15, or are you thinking that those 5 players are the ones that are going to come in there?
I think Robbie will start at 12, so I think that's his position at the minute. He of course played a lot at 15 for Connacht, hasn't really played there since. I think going into a World Cup, do you really want to take that risk? Probably not. Joey Carberry, up until the last couple of weeks, there were still debate whether 15, he was more comfortable at 15. The match at home where Tyler Blaindahl came on at 10, Joey went 15, and Joey set up 2 tries, scored one himself. He does look very, very comfortable and very a real threat at 15. So he is definitely an option, and he will be somebody that I'm sure will be on the bench behind Johnny. And whether you have him and Larmour, him or Addison on the bench in that 23 spot, I don't know. I listened to Brian, and I think that with the versatility that Addison has shown and the form that he's shown, I think that he is definitely pushing for that 23 spot. I think he is. Unfortunately, he's playing at 13 a lot for Ulster. If he was playing at 15 for Ulster, I think it would be brilliant, because it would definitely shore up that position. I just fear that we've got nobody else playing consistently at 15. That if Rob Kearney, heaven forbid something did happen, who's going to step into that position? We have loads of people who can do it. I think, unfortunately for Conway, he's a guy who I definitely rate, who's playing some great rugby as well, who fancies himself as a 15, but he's picked up a bit of an adductor strain at the minute. He missed out on Portugal. It could be crucial.
And the fact as well, with Munster's position, it just makes a lot more sense for him to be on the wing, given the strengths of Haley.
Yeah.
Just on that 15 role, because I think you're bang on about Rob Kearney kind of being this immovable thing. We really need him fit at this point. Is there a certain element of Joe Schmidt's game plan? You mentioned that Kearney's always so good in an Ireland jersey, that, say, Addison, if he's playing consistently at 15 for Ulster, is he then automatically able to just slot into a Joe Schmidt team at 15? Is the 15 role a crucial part of how Schmidt sets up?
Absolutely. 15, the amount of emphasis Joe puts on a 15, and you don't have to, when you have the likes of a Stockdale and an Earls and a Ringrose at 13, you don't have to be able to set the world alight. I think that because the wingers defend so high, the 15 has to cover a huge amount of ground. It's a little bit like Halfpenny with Wales as well. You watch Halfpenny, you see him on one side of the pitch, and the people kick to the far corner, and he just seems to be there. Rob Kearney is the same. You see a mountain of space in the backfield, and he just seems to be able to read it. He's able to cover the ground. And for somebody like Joe Schmidt to have that person that he can put so much trust in to cover that sort of space is so important. That is why, and I think that, and why I say Addison, because I know Jared Payne is with Andy Farrell a lot. They're trying to help each other, or certainly trying to help Jared and trying to bring him on as a coach. And with 15 and with Ulster, I know that they're trying to employ a lot of those defensive techniques, like I know they have been doing in Munster as well. So for someone like Addison, he will learn a bit if he was to go into Ireland camp and be given an opportunity. I just wonder whether, we've already got Henshaw, Aki, Ringrose and potentially Farrell in Ireland. Do Ireland need another 13? Probably not. Do they need a 15? Probably do. So why not use Will Addison, give him an opportunity there and see how he goes.
Are you seeing a lot of hallmarks of Andy Farrell and how Ulster are defending at the moment, particularly in that back three?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've spoken to a couple of the guys there that the defensive shape has changed quite a bit, that there's not so much a pendulum effect anymore. It's very much about Wingers staying high, wingers trying to control their wings, but also in the backfield, give deception, show space, but being able to close it down. I think that there's a lot of the Andy Farrell tactics have been brought in there, and it's showing dividends.
And the relationship between Addison and Stockdale, should Kearney go down, would be no bad thing either.
No. I mean, they go so well together. I think that. Listen, Stockdale, Earls, Larmour. I mean, you could put Larmour in there again. Unfortunately for Jordan, he had that game against Italy, and the high ball stuff didn't go so well for him. He played a couple of weeks ago for Leinster at 15. It didn't get as involved as he would have liked to. I've no doubt going forward, after this World Cup, Jordan Larmour probably will become maybe an Ireland 15 or will be thereabouts, but he's so young. That takes, you look at Rob Kearney, the experience it takes to have a position like that. So I would think that Jordan Larmour, his preferred position at the minute is wing, and I think that potentially Addison or Zebo.
Yeah. All right, a couple of comments in. John Tiswell, great stuff, love to see Tommy Bowe on, what a player he was. And Darren Doherty, totally agree with Bowe's selection at fullback. Larmour, amazing potential, but rather Addison for sure against a top side. So just internationally, how do we compare that at 15? Tommy, the same question again. Are we, in terms of what's out there elsewhere, where do we rate? I mean, we're all in on Rob here, obviously, is the thing.
Yeah, listen, Rob is world class. Listen, it's different because there's different fullbacks do different things. You have Mackenzie in New Zealand, a small guy who you think just put the high ball on him all the time. But if you give that guy a sniff, he's a little bit like a Larmour. When he gets the ball in any space, the electric feet he has. He's also played a lot of 10, so he opens up the field. It means Bowden Barrett can go one way, an equal option, so to defend that side you kind of think, okay, but Mackenzie sweeps back. So having threats like that at 15 does offer a huge amount, but with the type of play and type of game that Ireland employ, with going through multiple phases, with the way we defend, applying so much pressure, having a fullback like Rob Kearney at the back there, it suits the type of play that Ireland want to play.
Yeah, all right. Well, look at we've wrung that as much out of it as I think we possibly could, Tommy.
Thank you. I think so.
Really enjoyed it. The Simon Zebo wildcard pick particularly was a good one. I mean, it'd be just such an unlikely set of circumstances, really. It would have to be in for Schmidt, even philosophically, to consider it, right? Like the optics of having to draft him in.
You're talking about a depth chart, right? So, I mean, in terms of depth chart at fullback, you put Rob Kearney at a 9. I mean, Zebo, for the style of player, he could be arguably a 9 or an 8 maybe. So in terms of a depth chart, he's probably going to be second, maybe third on your list. But I think that you have to respect respect the rules that Ireland have put in there, and I think that is it's showing that we are able to do without players that are going abroad. I obviously went to the Ospreys, so I may be somebody who probably shouldn't be talking about it.
They can make exceptions in certain circumstances.
Well, me and Johnny, exactly. Of course,
He did a piece that's worth checking out with Jim Hamilton during the week. Simon Zebo and the Ireland question came up, and you could tell he was fighting the urge to start smiling once he was asked if should Joe Schmidt call you in. He's like, oh, I'm better put a straight bat here just in case. Tommy, thanks a million. Tommy Bowe, presenter of the Guinness Pro 14 on Irish Sport. Thanks a million for coming in. Pleasure as always.